Hello, everybody. Welcome to um, a Merlin chat of some kind, the backyard chat, whatever it is, chat in nature. I got random inspiration because I just had a little bit of downtime making videos, and I don't know, I was outside briefly trying to get a haircut, and not it didn't happen because they were so backed up. And I said, it's such a nice day, and I have a moment, and I remember I really haven't done too many videos outside, so you know, uh, a long time ago I did it for Kubo and There's Two Strings, which I think was about 6 years ago. So it's been it's been a while. Um, um, let's see. Oh, well, just in terms of random things I wanted to talk about, there were a couple. I had a good streak going about a couple little things. I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out there. I'll eventually get to it. In terms of something that's somewhat relevant, I suppose, I know that Better Call Saul is actually coming out with its final season soon. I think within a couple days of me uploading this, probably. And I actually got the chance to stream the whole fifth season on Netflix, and I always look forward to doing that. Uh, just because I don't get to watch it normally, and I really love Better Call Saul. And it's funny because I've got all these shows, right, and movies that are kind of on these lists that I plan to get to at some point. Like, and I admit I'm busier than I used to be, but sure, I have a couple hours here or there to watch an episode or to watch a movie. I really do. But I find myself not doing it. I'll just I'll end up reading or playing an old video game or something on my downtime. But then something comes up like Better Call Saul, and I just marathon the whole season within a couple days. So it's like if I really want to watch something, I'm gonna watch it. It's like you can tell the stuff that I really like because I don't even have to think about it or plan it. I'm like, oh, I'm watching that. And there's just so few shows that I have felt like that passionate about for a while. Not that, well, it's also I think because I'm already a little behind on it anyway. Like a lot of the shows, like I've got Squid Game, The Witcher Season 2, Cobra Kai, Midnight Mass, just all these shows within the last year that dropped that they got their brief buzz and then people stopped talking about them, and then I feel like, well, I'm already no longer with the flow of when people are really reactionary to these things, so I feel like I missed the hype. Now I feel like there's not as much incentive to watch it right away, which means that maybe I wasn't that driven to watch it purely by enjoyment. Though I do really like The Witcher, but I will probably watch the second season. I heard it was good, but I'm just in no rush to watch it. Better Call Saul, I'm actually behind, and I probably won't watch the last season for another year or two anyway. But I got to sort of marathon it because there's no, I guess there's no pressure to watch it essentially. Uh, so that's kind of my thought process there. But yeah, watching season 5 is really good. I think Lalo is a really great villain, and I watched a video recently about how really disturbing Gus Fring as a villain and how interesting he is as a villain and nuanced, and he's so frightening, and yet there is that humanity to him. There is that softer side that's in there somewhere, but it's just be hard to recognize. Just another example of a lot of the great things that Breaking Bad brought us for storytelling and for character stuff. Though I really do think I like Better Call Saul better, actually. Though I have a hard time explaining to myself and to others why. And I know that might be a hot take, though I feel like that's been online for years now. There's been plenty of articles. It's definitely there's definitely been discussions about Breaking Bad's not the undisputed winner for a lot of people in that sense. I have a feeling that a lot of people, I don't know, I wonder how many people that love Breaking Bad watch Saul. I feel like a lot of them probably would, because it's not just about Saul, it's about Mike and it's about Gus and a lot of the cartel stuff. Like, really, it's only half Better Call Saul. I would say that, I don't know, at least half the show, maybe more, is actually about Mike and the cartel stuff. Better Call Mike, Better Call Gus. But no, it's a really good show. I think Kim Wexler's a great character. I really like Chuck when he was around. Spoilers. Yeah, so I just think it's a great show, and there's something about the pacing of it I really like. It's got its own atmosphere. It feels like much more of a drama, and I really like a lot of the thriller stuff. Maybe it's because there's more of a focus on the organized crime element with all the cartel people, like Nacho. I think is a good character. You just got all these moving parts, whereas Breaking Bad was focused more on Walt, focused on just one character. I mean, there were other characters there, but he was definitely the main focus. And I do think Breaking Bad, when I rewatched it again, it's a very good show, don't get me wrong, but it does feel a little gimmicky because it's so much about, like, ooh, what ridiculous thing is going to happen to make you want to watch the next episode next week, which I guess is good television. And I think it was very well done, obviously, but it's like they rely too much on that sometimes, and it almost, as grounded and realistic as it's supposed to be, it sometimes borders on being ridiculous. And maybe that's the point too. And not that I'm certainly saying nothing can be theatrical. I love all my stories that have theatrics and can be over the top and bombastic, for certain. But Better Call Saul just feels a little more nuanced, a little more grounded, and maybe that's one reason I prefer it. It takes its time and it gets you thinking. Not that Breaking Bad didn't, but I like The Sopranos. I like Boardwalk Empire, The Wire, shows like that where there was a lot going on. They're very densely packed, and you might watch an episode and go, "Whew, I need to really take a break and ruminate on that for a while. I really need to think about what I saw, what things were going on." And sometimes you might really want to watch the next episode, but you really want to marinate. Whereas with Breaking Bad, it's like, oh, gotta watch the next episode. So I don't know, two different styles, but sometimes I don't think that some of those other big crime dramas rely quite as much on gimmicks. Breaking Bad sometimes I think did. So, take it or leave it, but that's just something I noticed. I got a truck coming by delivering something. Maybe one of my various orders. I wonder how this is going to sound, because I got the microphone attached to it here. I got a lot of wind, I got a lot of birds, so might be one reason why I don't do stuff outside as much, but, had to mix it up. Let me know if you want me to do more stuff outside. Next segment is just something I thought was very appropriate for the weather. Seeing this lovely weather outside just made me think about Miyazaki. I got to watch Princess Mononoke again, and I really enjoyed that film, and I was thinking about how that one's typically been on my favorites. I listed it in my top movies in that video I did with Dan over at Dan Reviews It back on his channel. And this is also one reason why I'm doing it for him, because I don't know, I think he once remarked about how he enjoyed the Merlin outside videos, so I don't know, maybe I'm doing it for him as well, because I know he didn't love Kubo as much as I did, but I was so passionate about that movie, go watch the video, that I felt inspired, and I had to just go outside and talk about it, so just rant about how much I love that movie. But now Princess Mononoke, I think it's interesting how it stands apart as a lot of the other Miyazaki movies, because most of them have this sort of wholesome, feel-good warmth to them, and there is, of course, a lot of that commentary about nature and, man's connection to it and generational issues. A lot of heavy cultural stuff from Japan and his generation that probably goes over my head. But a lot of these other movies have that wholesome feel to them. They just make you feel good. And Mononoke has some of that, but it's just so much darker and grittier. I mean, that's the Miyazaki movie, of course, where, you've got demons and monsters, and you've got blood and people getting their limbs cut off and decapitated and, mutating and all kinds of disgusting stuff. And you're like, oh, like this is the heavy one. And it's almost like that's just proof, I think, of how great of a visionary filmmaker he is, because he has a very distinctive style. And you can certainly see that a bit, maybe in Nausicaa as well. But that one has a slightly different, edgy style to it. There isn't quite as much softness in the character design. Everything's not all soft and fluffy. He's got the harder edges in designing his characters. And you've, of course, got the much grittier storytelling, kind of focused more of a closer history to Japan's feudal times, and just, a lot more of heavier themes and darker subject matter, and, so a very clear message, of course. But I maybe that's one reason why I like it so much, because it's got more of that edge and more of that classic fantasy element to it. But no, I think that's almost like proof that he has his own wheelhouse of what he can do that you consider to be associated with him, but he can break away from that and do something very different if he chooses to. Though I suspect he likes doing the nicer movies. Not that they don't also, of course, have heavier themes. But just great films. And I was thinking about just kind of running through them, as I sometimes do, and like maybe Kiki's Delivery Service. That's such a good one you can come back to. I watched it not that long ago, and it was very wholesome and warm, and you could you could watch it, and it just makes you feel good, even though it's such a simple story about coming of age, and really just a girl, trying to find herself and move out on her own, and some of the problems she has with her little business, and finding her passions again, which in her case is like being a witch, doing magical things, and talking to her cat and flying. That's like her, inspirational artistic gift. Hi, honey. Oh, I was recording something right now. I guess should I keep it in or should I edit it? That's the real question. Nope, gotta keep it in. Gotta keep it in. I'm keeping it in, people. Like, that's a good story. Howl's Moving Castle, I think, is interesting because that was one that I don't think I got on the hype train as much for a while. I wasn't quite as behind. But I realized that that one's like almost the default one, that if you're watching with a group of people and you can't decide which Miyazaki movie to watch, you can just throw that one on and it satisfies everybody. Like, there's something for everybody with Howl's Moving Castle, which of course has great visuals, and it's got this other great, more smaller story about two people finding their connection and once again finding themselves. But I always like the backdrop of the war with the wizards, which I kind of wish was expanded on more. But I like how it resolves with the prince. Like, these people's kindness, just by default, they help this prince, and it's like, oh, you know what? After my experience here, I really want to go and try to stop the war. Like, that's just such a nice thing. So it's just, I think Howl's is a really good movie. I think Spirited Away might be people's favorites in general, but that's a really good movie too. Another more great visuals as well. So it's really hard. He's one of those directors. I don't know if he's really done a bad movie. Even that Lupin the Third movie he did, I thought was very good. So he's good. And I was also just kind of thinking briefly about various bad movies. And I'll tell you what. Last little bit of the segment here is going to be bad movies that disappointed me, because over the last couple of years I've been really fascinated with the so bad it's good quality, maybe, and the accidental genius perhaps of making an entertaining movie you don't mean to because it fails in the traditional sense, but then how that arguably can be more successful than movies that are made well but they're boring or just forgettable. And it's weird how something like The Room has a bigger following and more passionate fans than hundreds or thousands of movies over the years that were made by more competent people with more money and more experience and studios behind them, marketing, and we don't, nowhere near as many people talk about them. I find that interesting. Like, there must be something good in, in that type of camp, and there's even within bad movies, there's different types of camp. Like, you've got the cheesy stuff, which might be sci-fi movies from the 50s that have, wonky special effects, or you've got movies that are bigger budgets that are just have ridiculous plots, or maybe weird acting choices, or just movies that are kind of silly but they're really not that bad. Because you've had people getting together for movie nights and parties, and maybe people want to make drinking games out of these things. Especially with the pandemic, we did that a lot. So it's interesting. There's subsets, and really trying to find that, I don't know, the really good bad movies. And I've watched quite a few that I genuinely like, maybe for the right reasons or the wrong ones, but if there is such a thing. But there's been a couple I found disappointing. Like Battlefield Earth, I really didn't like that much. I didn't find it that amusing. The Wicker Man had a few good moments throughout, but overall, I didn't enjoy it. Those were a couple I found disappointing. That we watched these movies, these Travolta movies, Gotti, The Fanatic, which I did not enjoy. Transformers 5 we thought we could make fun of, but too long, too much noise. I'm like, why is there so much movie going on? There's not that much plot. It was annoying. So yeah, those were some ones that, like, they're traditionally bad movies, but I didn't enjoy them quite as much. So there have been a couple of those, but there have been some really good ones. I really enjoy, like, for instance, Samurai Cop was good. The Silent Night, Deadly Night movies were pretty good. Obviously, I thought The Room was fun. Mazes and Monsters was pretty enjoyable. So sometimes they kind of surprise you. So I'm continuing to search for other good ones with my friends. So hopefully we'll watch more. And maybe there'll be more videos about some of those. I've got tons of ideas for the channel, but, I'll try to get them done. Once again, if you have any suggestions for me for videos you'd like to see, let me know. But I've got tons of ideas. And I've got tons of ideas. The question is finding the time or the energy to do them. Usually it's just like I have a moment where I want to record something and I do it here. But hopefully this is entertaining. a Merlin outside video. In the meantime, um, I will see you all later. Stay magical.